Hello, hello, guys. Welcome, welcome. Sorry, I'm a minute late here today. And guess what? I am taking over again today. For those of you who did not see Levi's story yesterday, he is in New York with Travis looking at, he's speaking at Inman, as well as he rang the bell on the stock market floor yesterday for EXP, which was pretty exciting. So he is here in spirit, but today I am taking over and going to be answering your questions as well. So like I said, last time that I ran this thing, we like to do channel reviews when those are available. I did not see that anybody submitted those this week. And so today we'll just probably focus on more questions. Now, if Andres, if you're on here, don't worry, I've got your channel review that we'll be sending you today. I did that separately because we didn't get to him last week. But I just want to go through and just answer all of your questions. In school, I've been seeing a lot of activity happening there. And, there's a lot of stuff that we can talk about today to kind of break down some of the stuff about the course. And I just kind of took a few notes of some things that I've been noticing coming out in the group. And so I'll go ahead and go through those first. And then again, of course, feel free to go ahead and just sound off in the comments and I will answer your questions there as well. So a big question that's been coming up recently is about intro videos, because intro videos have kind of changed in kind of what we recommend over the past, 6 to 8 months. Intro videos, and basically when I say that, I mean the musical intro that you have at the beginning of every single video. And that's there for branding purposes. We still recommend having one of those because it's important to have those from a branding perspective. And it's something that someone can, plan on every single time that they come to your channel. We recommend between 4 and 6 seconds for that. We have found that some people, they like to push it to like 8, 10, 12 seconds. And we find that the overall retention is a little bit worse when you have it a little bit longer. So I would recommend, again, still having it there, but only 4 to 6 seconds long. And so just think about, the main components being, 1 to 2 clips of yourself and then several clips of you driving around in different situations. And so generally the way that we like to do that is having 1 clip of you at the very beginning, walking around or, showing a house or something, and something that really describes what you do and kind of your personality in a very quick 1 to 2 second clip. We'll throw that at the beginning. We'll show a couple of a drone shot or a neighborhood shot or, something along those lines, an iconic area in your community. And then your last clip, it's typically going to be you again. And I like to do that just because it's you at the beginning and you at the end to kind of remind them why they're here on the channel and what they're going to be seeing every time they come to the channel. So that's what I would recommend. Again, 4 to 6 seconds long being the max on that. I would not go more than that just because we're seeing retention starting to drop off when it gets too long. I would also recommend, again, if you go back to the modules, not to have those at the very beginning of your video, but rather to have a hook at the very beginning for those of you who are not in our course, which I definitely recommend being in the course if you're not in there yet. But if you are going to be putting these intros on there, make sure that you've got your hook before you actually put the intro on there so that they know what they're going to learn and what they can look forward to in the video before they get going. All right, another question that came up in the group is vlogs versus map tours. What do you want to include in a vlog tour or a map tour? And I would say that I probably get this question a lot more about the map tours in general, just because you get on the Google map and you just assume that people know what to do because everything's labeled, right? And so you're basically just walking them around on the Google map to kind of show them what's going on. Well, I always tell people, what would you tell your friends? If you had a friend who was coming in from across the country and it's the first time they've ever visited, what are some of the things that you would be telling them to do or what's a must see in the area? The vlogs are going to focus a lot more on like the actual homes, places that are close to the homes. I mean, a lot of the focus is actually showing them what the neighborhood is looking like and what the house kind of looks like in that price range that you're talking about. So I would focus your map video on a little bit of a bigger perspective. And, one of my favorite videos that we worked on was actually a video that in the title, it said bird's eye view. And that's basically what you want to do is just from a bird's eye view, talk about the restaurants, talk about some of the popular museums, for our California friends, talk about the beaches that you're close to. For our people out in, mountainous areas that are close to the Blue Ridge Mountains, talk about the Blue Ridge Mountains and some of the really great recreational stuff you can do. One of our video editing clients is up in the Oregon area, had no idea that they were anywhere close to a ski resort, but apparently there's a ski resort over there that's really cool. So those are the types of things you want to kind of take them around on the map. You may think that it's, you know, pretty self-explanatory. Anybody could go on a Google map, right? But they don't have your perspective on what's cool and what's not. There's a lot of information on a Google map, and when you go through and you actually show them the things that you highlight on that, it really does help break it down for people, because I feel like a lot of times when buyers come in, and this is a comment I've gotten before from buyers that have called in, is I just feel so overwhelmed. There's so much information. I don't know what to focus on and what's really something that's going to apply to me when I move to this area. So that's what I would focus on with your map videos. Just try to think of how you would introduce a friend to your area and talk about those major areas. That kind of leads me into another main question that I get all the time, and that is about length. What is the length? And if you're in the course, you've probably heard Levi's, one of his favorite sayings is a video needs to be as long as it needs to be. And sometimes I see people kind of still get more confused when he says that. But the point is that we don't want you to just add fluff for the sake of adding fluff to a video. And I actually find that more often than not, people are doing videos that are too long versus too short. And so if you're concerned about filling the time, just remember that you're doing a few 2 to 3 minute clips and you're putting those all together, and that's going to give you, an appropriate length. I would be very cautious that if you're finding that your videos are longer than 20 to 30 minutes per video as an average. Now, if you have an outlier video, that's fine. An outlier video where you're talking about a bigger area. For instance, we did a video, probably a year ago about an area that we were talking about, like the top 5 neighborhoods of that community. And that took a lot longer because we were comparing a lot of information, and we had some great retention on that. And overall, the stats were very positive on all fronts for that video. But it also was one of a few that were really that long. All of our videos tend to be between 12 and 20 minutes, I would say, as an average. I would not go longer than 20 minutes. We're just seeing more and more, especially as short form becomes more at the forefront of marketing and marketing strategy for people. We're just finding that people's attention spans are going way down. And so I would say 12 to 20 minutes is ideal. That's kind of that perfect sweet spot where it doesn't feel too short to somebody. They don't feel like they didn't get enough information for the time that they spent, but they also don't feel like they need to abandon ship because they have other things to do. And so just think about the mind of the consumer, especially the people that you're talking to. If you find that you're going to want to watch your stats, obviously, but I would, if you're just starting out, kind of target between 12 and 15 minutes for your first few videos and see how it goes. And then, of course, if you start to find that people are still staying, 80, 90% of the way through the video, then, of course, maybe try doing some longer ones and see how those perform. But I think ultimately it comes down to reading your stats. Overall, I find that 12 to 15 minutes is about a sweet spot for our audience. Thumbnails. This is another great question that has been asked in the group. Thumbnails. What is the key to making a really good negative thumbnail? Because I know that some of us, especially when it comes to like the market crashing or interest rates are on the rise, or, like all of that was really, really easy to, it's really easy to get into a negative space with that, right? And I think some people are kind of sick of seeing it just from a consumer's perspective. I think a lot of consumers are like, oh, that's so hokey, like throwing up a negative thumbnail. I don't really want to be negative about it. Well, there's a way to spin it to make it feel like it's an open-ended question. And I think that that's really the key to making a negative thumbnail work really well. We put a lot of question marks on some of our negative ones. And so we'll put some imagery that is a little bit more provocative. We'll put in some flames, or put in a giant red X in the background, and those types of things, they kind of catch somebody's attention, but the words will say something like market crashing, or what's another one we've used recently? Should you move here? And so it's really less negative. It's like the imagery kind of is provocative. And so I'd say rather than thinking negative, think provocative with the overall imagery. And I think that you'll be able to get some extra eyeballs based on the thumbnail. And so when it comes, I do recommend throwing out kind of a negative, topic every once in a while, especially if you start to see that your videos are lacking a little bit and you see that your view count is down a little bit. I would try throwing out something that's related to the market or that's related to a community. A great example is if you're looking in your comment section and you get the same comments from people about, oh man, the restaurants in this area are the worst. You never want to move here. I'm so glad I moved away from there. I mean, that's a common one that I see all the time. We'll see a comment here and there on different videos saying, oh man, I'm so glad I left Dallas. There are so many construction projects. I just absolutely hated Dallas. I'm so glad that I moved away and I'll never move back. Well, if you start to see that comment over and over again, it's a great video topic. Talk about the new construction, and instead of spinning it in a negative way like they did, find a way to make it positive. Like, look at all of the infrastructure that's being built in this city, or look at all the incredible roads that are going, look at the plan that we have in 10 years to expand this shopping center. It does have a little bit of a drawback because of the traffic, but overall, look at all the expansion that we're having. So there's a way to spin it, and every single negative one, I would not focus on the negative in the actual content. We're talking more about a thumbnail and maybe a provocative title that's a little bit clickbaity. That's kind of where we come from with the negative stuff, but you want to spin it obviously in the most positive way possible. So think creatively, look in your comment section, see what people are talking about, and talk back with in the form of content. That's my suggestion for that. And then generally speaking, just the thumbnails, the best practices. So for that, I would just say, go back to the module on thumbnails that you'll find in the course. We talk a lot about best practices, but overall, the main points of that are to make them big, make them bold, and make them colorful. And so when I say those things, big, you want your face to be somewhat large. You want it to be on the right-hand side. I would say, to the point, I would dare say, to uncomfortably large. Okay, so like if you have, your forehead to your chin, that should take up most of that right-hand side. So your forehead should be close to the top. Your chin should be close to the bottom. Unless, of course, you're doing like a thumbs up or something like that, then you can bring it down a little bit to show more of like your hand motions and things like that. But generally speaking, when it comes to your thumbnail pictures, you want them to be big. So chin to forehead, you want that to show up on the right-hand side and take up a good portion of your right-hand side. The second thing is bold. You want your, whatever font you choose, it needs to be bold and it needs to contrast against anything in the background. So for instance, I've seen some people who have thrown out some fonts that they're really cute fonts, don't get me wrong. And I'm a designer, so I love using those really fun artistic fonts, but they're not good for thumbnails. And so if you're going to use that for anything, use it for branding items, something that is just something you use purely for branding. You're going to have to use something a little bit bold, a little bit more in your face than a typical font. And so some of the ones that I usually like to use, I love using Impact. I love to use, there's a couple of different ones. Actually, if you go and you look up that font family, when you're downloading a font to try and do a design file, you'll actually get some suggested fonts most of the time. And I would just say, again, you just want them to be thick. So find something that has an option to be thick. And my rule of thumb is if you can back that thing up and zoom out so it looks like it's on mobile and you can still read what the text says, you've chosen a good font. So make sure that it's bold and it contrasts your background really, really well. So just color-wise, you want to make sure you're looking at that color wheel like we've talked about and find the complementary colors which are across the color wheel. And then the last thing is colorful. You want to try and find something that is going to catch the eye. And one of the biggest mistakes I see with thumbnails is that people choose a confusing and a dull background. Confusing is one of the big things that will make people jump. In marketing materials in general, if it's confusing, and whether that's with the text or with that, or it's, the actual content of the background, it's going to make people jump and probably pass over your video. So I would try to find an image. And this is another thing too. I would really recommend that if you're in an area that maybe there's an iconic area or you have a personal favorite spot in this area. You're already out there. Go take the picture. You know, don't rely on Google or on a stock photo website to be able to provide you with what you feel like is really the best part of that video. So I would stop during one of your shots and actually stop and take a picture. If there's a house that you're showing that you're like, this is the highlight of the video, take a picture of that house, or take a picture of you in front of the house. You know, there's some different ways that you can, you know, incorporate those homes into it. But I would definitely take a still shot, because now, if you work with the video editing team, we do our best to actually pull what we think is the best for that video. So sometimes we can take still shots in front of the house and take a still shot of you in front of the house. I will say that the quality is just not as high as if you take a still shot. So I would definitely recommend doing that. Now, another great example is if you have like a really cool, say that you have a really cool graffiti art area in your city. And that's where you start out your video, is you're in downtown and you're in front of this cool graffiti wall. Stop and take a picture of the graffiti wall, because it's not guaranteed that we can find something like that for you or your editing team, whoever that is. You know, so that I would recommend actually stopping and taking a picture with that. Then when you bring that home, all you have to do is go in there and make sure you do a little bit of a color correction, bring up that saturation, and there you have a really pretty, very unique background. And I think that's really where YouTube is going to start moving to, because especially in the real estate field, a lot of people are starting to do what we're doing, even people who aren't in the course. And so we really want people to try to find new ways to stand out. And one of the ways to do that is original content. It always comes back to original content. When everybody started flooding the blogging scene, what was the recommendation? Content is king. Unique content is king. That's when Google and YouTube started diversifying the algorithm as well, looking for more of that original content. You're starting to also see that on Instagram, on TikTok. You know, the original sounds are actually starting to trend more. And the creators of Instagram, the creators of TikTok, they've all come out and they've said, you know, we're starting to emphasize people who are creating, not only using and utilizing some of those trending sounds, but people who are also coming up with original sounds that can be used as trending sounds in the future. They're getting prioritized. That's the same way with YouTube, and the way that and that just comes back down to the client experience and the person who's on the other side of the TV or the other side of the phone. If you're making a good experience for them, you're giving them something that no one else can give them, you're going to win their view. And so just think of that in all of the little small things that you're doing for your video. Follow the format, but at the same time, find your own unique way to follow that format. And that's really going to be the secret sauce for your success on YouTube. Cool. So now I can see there are a lot of comments coming through. So now that I've given you my monologue, let's go right back through here and make sure that I'm answering questions as we go along. All right. That's great for them. Congrats. Yes. I think you're referring to when Levi and Travis are in New York today and they rung the bell. So for those of you who just joined us, Levi and Travis are in New York for Inman, New York. And Levi's speaking today, but yesterday he rang on the stock market floor for EXP, rang the bell, and they actually had a big, if you go to his Instagram page, I'm pretty sure it's still up, but on his stories, he actually has a big, huge picture of him on a billboard in Times Square. It was a compilation of several videos or several pictures, but he actually has a picture in Times Square, which was pretty cool. So that was pretty fun. Let's see. Let's show this one. Hello, Arizona Real Estate. If I have your team do the editing for me, do you take care of the intro video? Yes, that's included in your service. So that's just part of your first week. It usually takes about a week for your first video to launch, just because we're working on building your channel out, creating your channel art for you, optimizing your channel, and creating that intro video for you. So yeah, there's instructions. If you decided to go with a package, once you purchase that, you get an intro email, and that gives you all the information on what we need to be able to create that for you. Cool. Nicole Baker. I have had mine made, and I was thinking about updating mine. Should I, or could that affect that? Oh, are you talking about your intro video? Because absolutely. We like to change ours up. You know, every 6 to 9 months, we usually go in and we switch ours up too, just to kind of do a little bit more based on what's changed in the algorithm, what we've seen change just based on comments from our clients. And then, of course, if we've seen, a change in certain duration recommendations and things like that, we'll go in and we'll make an update every 6 to 9 months. So that's not going to hurt you. We have videos from yesteryear that still have our oldest intro on them. So that doesn't hurt everybody. That can actually help. I think that overall, seeing something new, it kind of excites people. You think about, and again, I think go back to kind of what you see that's effective in other mediums and other forms of video, right? So think about Selling Sunset, for instance. Again, I don't really watch that show very much. I've watched a few episodes for some research for some textiles because I like some of the design that they do on those. But one thing that I've noticed as I've kind of skipped through some of their seasons is that their intro changes almost every season. And the reason that they do that is because it reignites your curiosity, right? If you hear a new theme song, you're like, wait a second, is this the same show? They do that in a lot of different series. Most series, I think, change that intro. So it kind of reignites people's curiosity. It kind of brings some extra, excitement to watching your videos and hearing something new. It's just going to kind of pique people's interest again. So I actually think it's a powerful thing to change it every 6 to 9 months. So yeah, definitely not going to hurt you. Let's see. Kevin Fleetwood, can we B-roll a Google my pleasure? I think you mean Google my business. Oh, my pleasure. Oh, I see. Can we B-roll a Google? I'm not 100% sure what you're saying there. Without any pushback from Google or the business owner. Sorry, Kevin, I am kind of missing. And maybe it's just Wednesday brain, guys. I'm so sorry. Somebody else, if you want to re-ask that question, just let me know. I'm sure that it was probably just a typo or something. Anyway, either that or I'll just apologize in advance for my Wednesday brain. I apologize. I'm just joining. Have you talked about shorts already? We kind of have talked about shorts in some ways. Did you have a specific question about shorts? I'd love to answer that. Let's see. I would love to chat with you again about my channel name. Okay, yeah, sure. What we can do, what I would recommend, Mary Jane, we've had our kickoff call. So what I would say is actually on every one of our boards for our video editing clients, if you're in our program, we have a weekly video editing strategy call. So you can pop on there. It is in a group setting, just because I feel like a lot of the questions that I get asked on these introductory calls are very, very helpful for other people too. And so those are on Fridays, and it's usually just a few people on there. So it is kind of a quaint little group that we talk to, but that's what I would recommend is we can kind of brainstorm through some of those ideas if you want to hop on that call with me on Friday. But like I said, that's all on your board. So if you go to your coordinate board on your right-hand side, there's a list of notes, and underneath that, you'll see video editing support call, I believe is what it's called. All right, Debbie, where is a good place to find music for the intro? Well, I think that there's lots and lots of depositories that you can go to. I would say that wherever you end up going, it needs to be a dedicated, commercially licensed music provider. I don't want to see anybody going to a YouTube channel that says royalty-free music and try using that music, because I guarantee you're going to get dinged every single time in your copyright claims. And so anytime that you purchase there's a lot of different providers. We have a couple of different ones that we pull from. I'm trying to remember where our videographer, if you have one channel, sometimes using a program that actually directly links to your channel is really helpful, because then you never have to input the individual licenses. You just have to basically hook it up once, and then it recognizes every time that you use it from there. I'm trying to remember what it's called. I need to write it down because people ask me this question all the time and I always forget. But whatever you end up choosing, just look for one that actually provides you with the commercial licenses, because if you don't get those, then there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to keep that and not have a copyright claim. Now, if you get a copyright claim on a video and you can't resolve it, it's not going to shut down your channel. The only thing that does is it prevents you from monetizing that video. And so that video's monetization and any revenue that comes with that down the road will end up going back to the creator of the music. And so that's the only problem with that. Okie dokie, living in Austin, Texas. I've been focusing on SEO and keywords on each video. Each video I'm posting gets less and less views. I was getting about 2,000 views per video, and now it's in the low hundreds. Not sure what changed. There's a couple different factors at play there. It could be, now this is something that I found. Were you getting when I say consistently, I'm talking probably more than a month. Were you getting more than 2,000 views on each video for more than a month? Or did you notice kind of like it was kind of in the hundreds and then it spiked and it came back down and it's back in the hundreds? That's a question I would ask. 2, I'm assuming that you haven't done any ad spend on that, but it's worth asking. If you were doing any type of ad spend at any point on your channel, that could have also affected it. So there's a couple different factors to keep in mind. The first scenario, and I've seen this happen on more than one channel, especially recently, I've had people who have, they've experienced a month of just plenty, right? The time of the feast, the time of the famine. Well, it was the time of the feast for them. And they experienced thousands of views on different videos for about a month. And then all of a sudden it just dropped off. But before that, they were back in the hundreds, right? So it wasn't really like something that they were used to seeing. It was 1 month worth of that. Well, what happened is that YouTube picked them up and actually was promoting them. And so YouTube, sometimes they'll put their own ad spend into your videos if they find that they're relevant, they're seeing that they're gaining some traction. A lot of times YouTube will go ahead and put some of their own money in the jar. And that's what happens for about a month. They test things out. It's their way of kind of testing the algorithm, seeing how things are hitting and finding new audiences for you. So that's a very good possibility that that's happened. But again, I would say we'd probably have to look at it a little bit closer for me to be able to say for sure. All right. When is that call? And like I said, that call is for video editing clients exclusively. That is on Fridays, and you'll find that on your coordinate board, a link to sign up for that call. You will have to sign up for it. So basically it will just take you to a Calendly link and it will show you the available times, and then you'll just sign up for it just like you did when you did a private call with me. There we go, Kevin, my typo. Can we Google a business and grab optics to B-roll in our video without any pushback from business owner or Google? Okay, I understand what you're saying. I would say no to that, because with drone footage is a different animal. Drone footage is its own animal. And so a lot of times people are very protective of their drone footage. A lot of times when you actually Google drone footage, you're going to end up back at YouTube. And there are very strict rules about what you can use on YouTube and what you can't use on YouTube. Unless you have strict, explicit agreements with the people who have created that drone footage, you're going to get dinged, and that's going to end up sending them ad revenue for you. Because if somebody claims, and this happened before, we had somebody that came in and basically was using pieces, large chunks of pieces of our videos in their videos, and we ended up claiming a lot of that material. And the ad revenue ended up coming back to us because someone was using our material without our permission. So I would not go in that direction. I would go to a depository, video editing, stock video depository, and actually pulling some from there. Now, I have heard that Canva Pro has some great drone footage. We pulled a few clips from there. We tend to pull from other depositories just because we have several. But Canva Pro has one. Storyblocks, I've heard, has some really good ones. We've used Storyblocks before. We use that occasionally. Shutterstock has some good ones. So I would just go in and start looking in some of these depositories and going with a paid source rather than trying to go with something that you just find on the internet, because, you may not get caught, but I always believe that honesty is the best policy, because ultimately there's stuff in place to make sure that people are honest. So if you're honest, you're not going to run into those problems. Let's see. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Let's see. And let's see. Ryan, what would you recommend for making a YouTube intro by yourself without an editor? I have seen a couple of apps that have templates, or do you make them from scratch? Our team makes them from scratch, but it's up to you. I mean, there's templates out there that you can use. If you do end up using, if you don't have any video editing skills, there are some places out there that they have templates that basically you just throw your clips in there and it's a done deal. Now, I will tell you just from experience, because I'm a curious person and I like to go out and I like to test everything, right? I've used some of those templated ones before, where you go out and it's like a website. You pay there's a free version and then there's a $15 a month version or whatever. And you'll get on there, you'll throw your clips in there. And I will tell you what, it can suck about 2 hours of your time just creating that, just because you have to learn the program. I mean, any program that you end up using, even if they say it's drag and drop, they take time. So, I mean, it's all really based on what you feel like is worth your time. But yes, they do have those out there. The other thing to keep in mind is that some of those programs, they will put a watermark on your video unless you end up paying for their service. And they usually don't tell you that until you get to the end of creating your video. They'll let you use all the tools. They give you a look at everything that they have to offer. They let you add this and add that and all the premium features. You can add it. But at the end, they hit you with like, okay, great. Well, you can download this video for free with a giant watermark over the center of it, or you can download this for $60, and $60 a month will get you this intro and any intros that you want to make. So they kind of suck you in, and 2 hours into it, it is pretty frustrating. And a lot of people end up paying the $60 just because they don't want to have to go back and do it again. So something to keep in mind, if you don't have video editing skills, I would recommend just having somebody do it from scratch, because the templates are there, but they're not as easy as they look most of the time. So, and I mean, if you're not going to work with the video editing team, then, you know, you can go to Fiverr and you can get them to create one for you too. And it's going to cost you a lot less in time than it is to try and do it yourself. Trust me, I've played with a lot of the different template programs, and a lot of them just still suck your time. So if you are creating my channel, will you propose music options? Yes, we will. So we can talk about that. And actually in your onboarding items, there should be an option there. One of your task items is what type of music are you looking for? So we'll be able to talk about that with you too. And if you want to hop on that Friday call, we can talk about that in a little bit more detail too. Let's see. Yes. Each was around 2,000 to 3,000 views. Okay. And yes, we were doing ad spend. So that's the problem. If you do ad spend for a long period of time, you've basically told YouTube what you want your audience to be, instead of letting YouTube tell you what your audience ought to be. So that is a question of maybe you would need to look at your channel and see whether or not starting a new channel would be good for you. Because a lot of times what I find is that people who have done ad spend on a channel, it's a couple years old, whether they've been uploading consistently or not, if you've been doing ad spend, you're basically you've already told YouTube who you want on your channel and who you don't want on your channel. Whether or not those are actually the right people is usually the problem. And that's usually why ad spend is so, it's not effective. It's because we think we know who the client is, but YouTube knows that algorithm better than we do. And it knows the needs of the clients more than we do, because it's basing it on client experience rather than the demographics on paper. And so that's why we don't recommend doing ad spend. And I would say for sure, stop doing the ad spend for now. And if you want to keep the channel that you have, just really focus on purely organic traffic. I wouldn't share it anywhere. I wouldn't share it to Facebook. I wouldn't share it to Instagram. I wouldn't share it to any other platform, no LinkedIn. I would literally just leave it alone. Once you upload it and you do all the SEO correctly, let YouTube build a brand new audience for you based on organic traffic. And that's where I think you're going to get better, more effective analytics from that too. So yeah, that makes sense to me. Keep hearing you should create a separate channel for them. Is it correct? If so, how do you bring the new channel to bring viewers to your long form content on the main channel? Oh, you're talking about shorts, Katera. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Yes. So we initially started with a separate shorts channel, and we tested that out, and we found that, you know, the big problem that we were having before is that there was no way for us to connect the short form to the long form. But once they announced a few months ago that actually you can create a short directly from the long form and it will automatically redirect to the long form, it makes more sense to now have it on the same channel. So, and the other problem that we were running into is that it was blending all of our videos together, and we didn't want the short form to be overwhelming the amount of long form that we had, as far as just from a view perspective. When you came to the channel, we didn't really want to mingle that. But now that they've created a very separated playlist option, a very separated tab option for shorts, we now recommend having them on the same channel. Let's see. Anyone seeing my questions? Just trying to make sure my connection is working. Selling bee home tours. I'm not sure. I think this is the first one I've seen from you. I saw one that says, "Is anyone else waiting?" That's great for them. Congrats. And client. So yeah, I don't think I've seen a new question from you, selling bee home tours. So if you want to resubmit your question, I'm happy to answer that. Sorry, I haven't seen anything new come through yet. Living in Austin, Texas is It's also seeing slow increases in subs. We're almost at 5K, but it's taking much longer than I thought it would. Are there any recommendations to help us reach more people or subs? Yeah, and you know what? Subscribers are fantastic, but they are not indicative of success at all. It's a true vanity metric, and I think people focus too much on subscriptions. So what I would say is there's a couple of things that you can do to increase that. Now, number one, I would ask, how many videos per week are you doing? And if you're doing maybe 2, I would increase it to 3. That's the first recommendation, is always just doing more content, right? The second thing is to do a stronger call to action in each video, and to make sure that you are saying very clearly, please subscribe to the channel at the beginning, somewhere at the beginning and somewhere at the end. So having a stronger call to action is going to be important. The third thing that I would also say is to make sure that you're calling attention to that in your banner in a couple of places. And if you're following our format, then you'll see subscribe to learn all about blah, 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 blah. So subscribe is a big component of the banner. And with that, call to action is very, very clear on the banner. So make that clearer on your banner. And then, of course, we also have an area in the bottom right-hand side. And I'm doing this trying to show you on the screen. But down here on the bottom right-hand side of your banner, there's a section to send somebody to go to schedule a call with you, and then also to subscribe to the channel. You can create an auto subscribe button, and we talk about that in the course on how to create an auto subscribe link, and you can make that link automatically subscribe anybody who is not subscribed when they click on it. So those are the 3 things I would recommend. Again, I'd probably have to take a closer look at your channel. There could also be some things that we would need to do from just a perspective of changing thumbnails or changing the overall look, or, you know, some organizational things that helps the viewer experience. But overall, those are the 3 things that I would probably start with and kind of work your way out from there. I see your last comment. Oh, that is, I will go back and look through again. I'm not seeing anything new from you through here, Selling Bee. Sorry about that. Yeah, just resubmit that. I'm so sorry. I'm not seeing that other one. Okay, cool. Is the way that you're bringing live chat questions on the main video frame done by StreamYard? It looks professional. Yes, it is done by StreamYard. We love StreamYard. We use it for a lot of different things. Actually, if you ever end up doing any type of, you know, agent attraction down the road for people who do that, that's another great thing to use. Is StreamYard can be really awesome for your agent attraction interviews and things like of that nature. They've got some really great features now. If you ever do any type of interviews where you can actually record, you can just record the dual screen, but it will also record the individual screens and isolate audio for each individual person. So really, they've done some really great stuff with the video options and downloading video. So yeah, definitely recommend StreamYard. Yes, this session will be available later as a replay. You'll just find it right on our channel. Underneath the live section, you'll be able to find all of our live events that we've done here on YouTube, and you can rewatch them all, and you can rewatch them in double time because sometimes we talk a lot, right? Hey, I've done it. We've all done it. 2 times the speed. We've all got stuff to do, right? All right, shorts are for entertainment mostly. Is this the type of engagement you want to be linked to in your long form videos? Now, I would actually say that that is not true. I will go ahead and just call that a myth, because actually I think that that's a misconception that a lot of people have about shorts, and it's a big reason why people don't do it. But educational content is actually like the #1 driver on Instagram and TikTok. You're going to find that while the entertaining channels are there, the educational content is going to be what's going to grow you faster than anything else. I find that a lot of the entertainment stuff, I feel like it's a slower burn for the most part. But educational content, if you're giving true value in your shorts, you grow a lot faster because people are saving your videos, they're subscribing to you. It's a lot easier to get somebody to say, oh yeah, that person gave me value when it's educational, versus something just funny. I find that it's a lot easier just to scroll through that stuff. So I would definitely say, if you're not doing short form content, I would definitely consider it. Now, that being said, if you're just starting with your channel, I get that question a lot too, is when should I start doing shorts? I would not start doing shorts and short form content, at least publishing it. Now, if you want to start doing it, that's totally fine, and maybe banking your content. I would recommend 30 to 60 days from when you actually launch your channel. And this is why. Once you start putting shorts on your channel, it's going to attract a different audience. You want a very well-established audience That's the first reason, is you want to create a well-established audience on YouTube before you start throwing in some of those outlier people into the channel. It will help YouTube learn a little bit better, and it will throw your shorts out to the right people versus having the shorts content be the one that drives your traffic. Your long form content is really the litmus test for who's looking at your material and who's actually going to buy. That's the first reason that I would wait to do that. The second reason is because a lot of what you're going to learn in those 30 to 60 days, based on your analytics, based on what types of topics you're getting asked about, based on your comment section, that's going to drive your short form content as well. So especially when you're doing things that are just like a one and done type of situation versus trying to pull from the actual video, if you're trying to make the one stop, you bulk create a bunch of stuff, you want to make sure that you're targeting items and targeting topics that are actually going to be searched for. So that's why I would say 30 to 60 days, let your channel go, and then you can start making some short form content and posting that to the channel too. But I definitely would take advantage of that. We're getting to a point in history where, while long form content, I feel like, is always going to be king, if you miss out and you don't do the short form content along with it, you're going to be missing the train big time. Is there a way to have y'all take a direct view at my channel? Yes. So are you in our Facebook group, Living in Austin, Texas? And sorry, I don't know what your actual name is, so I'm going off of your channel name. But yes, we can definitely take a look at that. If you're in our Facebook group, every week we have these trainings. And so just go ahead and drop when we announce the actual event, you can go to the event page and drop your channel name in the comments, and we'll go in and actually do a channel review of that. Okie doke. Will you copy and paste my question? I don't know why it's not showing up. Let's see. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't know why that's not showing up on my end. Hi, Daphne. Okay, I'm going to remember that for next time. Now I've seen your face, I can put your name to the face. So that's awesome. But yeah, if you want to join our Facebook group, and for those of you who have not joined our Facebook group, I definitely recommend that. You're going to want to go in there because we do so much throughout the week. We have trainings throughout the week. We offer a ton of value for free. So you can go in there, and we have not only that, the community in there is incredible. Like if you're asking, if you have a question about whether or not your thumbnail looks great and you throw it up, you're probably going to get 20 responses from people. Our community is very, very responsive, and we're all about helping each other better our channels. And so if you want to pop into that, that would be great. Okay, great. And it sounds like you're already in the Facebook group. So yeah, just for the next event that we have next week, because we're kind of coming close to the top of the hour here, just throw that link into the comment section underneath that event, and I'll be able to look through that. I'm sorry, I'm at the comment you posted. I don't see any previous questions, but try posting again. It looks like all your comments are coming through now. Yeah. So I have not seen that yet, but feel free to pop that into there. And last comment here, living in Austin, Texas. I'm on the Facebook group already. I'll look into it. Awesome. Yeah, and you guys, if you have not joined, and I just mentioned this a minute ago, but if you haven't joined the Facebook group, that's really easy to get into. We accept everybody into that group. We also do have a private group in school that we have a lot more. We have some exclusive trainings that we do with people. Like we have a course support call for people who are in our course, who actually we can go in depth throughout the week. And so it's like an additional resource in addition to this one, because I'm the one who runs that call. And if you have a question about reviewing your channel or anything like that, you know, I can go in and review your channels on that as well. Or if you have a specific question about a module or, you know, some of the content that you're creating, it's a really great way for us to break down some strategy for your calls. You just need to be in our school group to be able to do that. So join the Facebook group, which is our free group. And then if you decide that this is valuable to you, take the course and pop into our course support calls, and I'll be there to help you. I need to create a channel. How do I search for a name I can use? Yes, so the tool that we recommend for that is TubeBuddy. So what I would recommend doing is creating a channel and just have it be your name just at the very beginning, just so that you can set something up. Because the way that it works is if you connect your TubeBuddy, it has to be connected to a channel that's actually created. And so you can change the name at any point. So you could name it ABCDEFG, right? And it would still be fine to change that in a week, right? It's not going to affect anything. So I would just create a channel with any name, maybe a brainstorming name, and then I would attach a TubeBuddy account to that. And that is going to require a subscription, but it's well worth it. So attach a TubeBuddy account to that, and then go into the SEO studio and the keyword research tool and start searching some of the names. I would start with a short form keyword, a short tail keyword, and usually it's going to be like your city and state or, you know, if you're living in a very popular county, I would do the county as that name. I would start with usually going to be 1 to 2 words long max, and then branch out from there. And so I would see, like, if you, for instance, live in, I'm trying to think of a really good example. Well, I'm in the Georgia area. So say that you're looking at the Atlanta area, but you don't want to necessarily focus on Atlanta. You want to, you do most of your business in Marietta. So I would start with the keyword Marietta, Georgia, and see what the numbers come up for that. Then on the right-hand side, you're going to see a ton of information about some different keyword suggestions, and you can start exploring that traffic. Well, maybe you settle on Marietta is the best decision in this area. So I'm going to try living in Marietta, Georgia. I'm going to try moving to Marietta, Georgia. I'm going to try Marietta, Georgia real estate. And so you can just kind of go through, I'd come up with like the top 5 to 10 that you feel like would be a fit and do some keyword research on that based on those keywords, and then just see which one has the best search traffic. I would not focus as much on the actual weighted or the unweighted score. That's really not going to matter as much as what the actual traffic volume is for the actual headline for your channel. So does that make sense? I tend to talk kind of fast. So anytime that you guys are like, Krissy, I can't understand a word you're saying, please tell me in the comments. Because I don't want to forget what I'm talking about and what I'm thinking about, right? All right, well, cool. Well, I think we've gotten through all of the questions today. So if we don't have any other questions today, we'll go ahead and call it a day. But like I said, we do these calls every single week. Usually I'm not the star of the show, right? I'm here to back Levi up, and I'm here to help. I answer questions all the time too, but Levi is going to be back next week. And so we'll be tag teaming again on our weekly call next week. We do have our course call, our weekly course call on Tuesday nights. We have our calls, obviously our live calls on Wednesdays, and then we have a video info call on Fridays that we can kind of talk through your video editing questions if you're in the video editing program. So feel free to check us out. If you have not checked out the course, go ahead and go to passiveprospecting.com. We would love to have you in the course and help you build your YouTube channel, because 2023 is the year to do it, guys. If you haven't gotten onto YouTube, if you haven't started creating video, it's going to be a massive shift for you. And the time is now. A lot of people are getting on YouTube right now, especially in the real estate space. So if you're in the field right now, it's kind of one of those opportunities. You think back to some of the opportunities in the stock market where no one was talking about Amazon stock. No one was talking about eBay stock. This is one of those times in YouTube history that if you're not on YouTube, you want to be on YouTube now. It'll be a turning point for a lot of people because it's becoming more and more popular. And a lot of people are starting to cue into the fact that there's a lot of potential on YouTube. So we would definitely recommend getting into the course. If you have questions about that, you're on the fence about whether or not it would be a good fit for you, feel free to reach out to me. I'm at our support email. I'm the guy that mans that all day long. And so feel free to email me at support@passiveprospecting.com, and I can answer your questions about the course. But otherwise, we will catch you guys in the Facebook group, in school, and in the course. And we'll talk to you guys next week. Bye, guys.